but yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And I apologize, I will be eating at the same time. Got the breakfast.
Hey, no problem. Gotta have that brekkie.
Yeah. Oh, that's very Australian of you. Very, very good.
I actually spent 6 months in Australia when I was in grad school, so
Well, there you go.
I learned
Tick.
some of the lingo.
No, that's awesome. No, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's good. I haven't had too many. Actually, I think you're my first sort of new time ninjas, like first season competitor.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Um,
thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on.
no, no, absolutely. Well, I think it's important to get the perspective of some of some of the newer ninjas, not necessarily newer to training, but newer to the show, and just sort of get your hear your experiences and was it everything that you envisioned in your mind and all the McGraw. So it's also been great watching your ninja progress. I think probably at least over the last year. You've really made
Yes.
some awesome gains. So I always like to ask, a little bit about yourself, how you were in your younger years. Were you athletic? Were you nerdy? What kind of person, what
Yeah.
kind of kid were you?
I think I was, for the most part, I was a really nerdy kid. The only foray I really had into sports was what we call long distance running. In track, long distance was anything 800 meters and up. Uh, so I was actually really good at the 800 and the 1600. And that was really all I did for sports. I came from a single parent family, and of course, every time the Olympics came around, I wanted to do ice skating, or I wanted to do gymnastics, or I wanted to do all that kind of stuff. But we didn't really have money for those sorts of hobbies when I was a kid. So it was just anything that was free. And honestly, I was just so uncoordinated as a kid. Track was it for me, one foot in the front of the other, real easy. But I was good at it. I ended up being very competitive at the one sport that I did do. And yeah, so once I graduated college and started making some money of my own, I decided I was just going to catch up on everything that I had missed out on as a kid. And I just started doing all sorts of dance lessons, martial arts, like circus arts, aerial arts, like anything I could get my hand on. I had a hobby of the month, let me tell you. Everybody was always teasing me, like, what are you doing this month? Oh, I'm trying out archery.
That's pretty cool.
so so yeah, it was really my adult years when I started really developing what I like to call skill-based exercises. And for me, that was a lot more fun than going to the gym.
Mm.
Bless those people that like going to the gym and lifting weights, but I just found that doing the skill-based sports was a lot more fun for me. And it gave me, it was a lot better as far as like goal setting. You could actually see your progress on certain things when you're doing a skill-based exercise. But yeah, I just started getting into all those types of activities. And when I saw Ninja, which actually wasn't too long ago, my friends would joke with me. They're like, oh, you should go and try Ninja Warrior. I'm like, haha, I actually saw the show one time and I thought, man, that looks amazing. I feel like it's a culmination of everything that I've been doing so far. So I thought there's no chance that there's going to be a ninja gym in my area. Well, it turns out there is one right down the road. So I tell you what, I was like a kid in a candy shop going there for the first time, and I haven't looked back since. I've really only been doing ninja for about 2.5 years. But yeah, I haven't looked back. It's my longest running hobby by a long shot. And I think it's going to continue to be that way. So,
I certainly, I certainly hope so. So yeah, what was that experience like? That first time going in? Take me through.
oh,
If you
wow.
remember.
I tell you what, like, because I've had so many different hobbies before, it's always thrilling to be a beginner, I think, in any sort of thing that you pick up, because you're brand new. And for me, I didn't worry about making mistakes. I'm like, hey, I'm
Mm.
new to this. Nobody's expecting anything of me. I don't even expect anything of myself. So it's always fun to go in there and try things for the first time, and just, you're having fun with it. You're just like testing your limits and seeing what you can and can't do. So,
Mm.
I mean, I had a great time, and looking back at some of those old videos, of course, I'm thinking, wow, look at me, baby ninja. I can barely make it across a pegboard. But it's just great to look back on. But yeah, back when I was a beginner, it was so much fun. Um, yeah,
That's
I just
awesome.
loved it.
It's interesting. Like that seems to be the mindset we all consistently share. We see the fun in it, and I bring this up, and it's a shame because there's a lot of people who try it and they're just so fearful and they're scared and intimidated. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to teach that mindset of, you are a beginner. You're not expected to be an expert. So why do you think you had that view on things? Have you always had that, or did you develop it over time?
Yeah, I think when I've tried new things, I've always had that aspect, that I'm not afraid to fall because nobody's expecting me to go very far, so
Mm,
it's not like I'm, anybody has any expectations of me, or I have any expectations of myself. So yeah, I'm just out there and having fun and not worrying about falling. Um, when you get to a certain point in the activity, at least for me, when I would get to a certain point in an activity that I was doing, when I would actually start showing some progress, then that's when the expectation started to arise. And I think that's very common for a lot of people.
mm,
Once they're good and they start doing competitions, they think people have expectations of them to do well. They
mm,
think that, they have all these expectations of themselves. Well, like I should be able to make it past this obstacle. And I think that is actually a huge challenge for ninjas, to get over that hump and to get past that point. As a beginner, I think it is kind of easier to tell somebody like, hey, don't worry about falling. Nobody here knows who you are,
mm.
like nobody has any expectations for you. We're all having fun. But yeah, once that competitive side takes over and you reach a certain level, I think that's the big challenge.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. It took me 3 years to get over that, and I was
Yeah.
already in it,
Yeah, absolutely.
so 100%. So, what was the first skill, if you remember, the first thing that you tried that sort of blew your mind?
Ah, that blew my mind. Okay, I remember trying the salmon ladder. That's probably the first, because before then I had done ring toss or, tried to travel across a pegboard. But the
Mm,
first skill that I had seen from the show that I thought was an amazing skill that I tried was the salmon ladder. I
mm,
tell you what, it took me maybe even months to try to get that, but definitely upwards of like several weeks to try and get it. And I was scared of that. I was scared of like hitting myself on the head. I was scared of, having the pole crashed on me.
mm,
Um, but it's just going out there and trying and falling. And once you fall and you realize, hey, I'm okay, nothing really happened, that
mm,
gives you confidence to get up and try again.
mm,
So yeah, I just tried it for weeks and weeks. I would study people's movements. I would try different things,
mm.
to see what worked for me, because some people have different ways of approaching a salmon ladder.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all about that trying to get over that fear, falling, realizing that it's okay, and getting back up and trying again, until I
Mm.
finally got it. And that was a momentous day. I really
Yeah.
think that the same ladder is really big in my memory.
It's always amazing finally getting something you've been working on, or I mean, just that feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
exactly what you
Absolutely.
mean.
It's so much better getting those than the ones that you've gotten on the first or second try, for sure.
Yeah.
Those are the salmon ladder, the hard ones that you've been working on, for weeks or months. Those are the most memorable. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
100%. So, you obviously you stayed with it. I guess I'm assuming, the you were drawn also to the community as well. Do you have is there a strong contingent of female ninjas in your gym? Because I know there's two gyms. There's two in that sort of Florida, because you're in Florida, right?
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
Central Florida area. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, there's two gyms in Orlando. And then there's also a couple of them over on the west coast of Florida and Tampa area that have some really good female ninjas. So, and then also in South Florida, there's a new gym. So, I mean, I'd say in our general area, I train sometimes with Ashley McConville, the Bergstrom twins, so Katie Bergstrom is also on the West Coast. Jamie Ross, who's been on the show a couple of times, she's down in South Florida. So yeah, I actually think that Florida is becoming a really hot spot for ninjas.
Interesting. And what about in your, so because you train with RJ Rams, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So what about in that gym? Is there a strong up and coming group of females coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as up and coming ninjas go, I tell you what, the teenagers are just phenomenal.
They're crazy, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. They're so strong. So Elena Borges, she was actually supposed to be on this year of American Ninja Warrior as a teenager, because they actually they got a few teenagers to come onto the show, but then with COVID, they decided,
yeah, I was there.
Yeah, we're going to pass over the teenagers this time. I think for sure they're going to be invited back next year, but she was supposed to be on it. And I just think she would do so well on the course. She's just amazing. But I train with her every week. Another up and coming female is Ava Long. So she's been doing really well. Yeah, she's been doing really well in the NNL courses. UNAA, I believe that she might have been first place in her division in NNL this last year in the World Championship. So she is phenomenal as well.
Yeah, I did notice that when I was in Houston, you'd watch the teens and adults sort of integrate together, which I thought was really, really cool. And even now when I'm looking at Instagram, they're all competing together. Like a dude I met in Houston, Kai, competing and hanging out with Vance, the guy who won the junior. And I mean, that kid must be 15 going on 25. There's no way. There's no way that guy is 15. I'm trying to get him on for next week. It's just
I tell you
cool.
what, the teenagers are just so strong. They're phenomenal. Their grip strength, because their grip strength to body weight ratio is just so high, and it's just amazing the kinds of things that they can do and the kind of endurance, like physical endurance that they have. So yeah,
I can't keep up.
It's going to be exciting to see the next few years of American Ninja Warrior. I tell you what.
Oh man, I'll probably have to retire. I'll have to retire soon.
Yeah, I mean, even in practice, I'm trying my best to keep up with the teenagers for sure.
So, at what point were you like, okay, I want to get on the show? So, because you said you've been training for 2.5 years, have you been applying every year, or did you wait until this season? What happened?
No, this was the first season that I applied. And I tell you what, I was really close to not applying because I am one of those people who I'm a perfectionist. And every time I went into a competition, I would tell myself, I'm not ready. And I was never ready to apply for the show. Every single year I would pass it up. I would say, okay, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But this year, with RJ's encouragement and a bunch of my other, training partners and friends, they said, just give it a try. Just give it a try. You might not even make it. Just, give it a go. You have a good story and a great personality. So you never know. And I scared hitting that submit button. And turns out I was one of 150 in the nation. I still can't believe it. I went up to RJ. I was like, RJ, I don't even know why they picked me, but here I am. So yeah, it was a huge, huge honor. I'm so glad I hit the submit button.
That's awesome.
Even though I thought I would.
So were you a part of the original 500 as well?
I was, yeah. So I think,
yeah.
Yeah. So I think they got about, half of their calls in before they stopped making calls altogether. But they did call the Southeast region. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. I mean, I knew, obviously because I was meant to compete in LA, because of my I have dual citizenship. So, we were meant, they obviously pulled the pin the day before we were meant to film. And I knew there was no way of going back. I knew as soon as they said, oh, there might be a possibility, I'm like, yeah, nah, there's no way I'm getting out of Australia.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
for
back.
sure. Yeah, it would have been hard to fly you over and do all of the quarantining. Yeah.
Oh, not a chance. So
Oh, that's
obviously,
tough.
we all get that original news, everything's postponed, and then magically they're going to continue on with a smaller cohort. How are you feeling going into it? And walk me through the days, the day of, just everything leading up until you standing on that platform.
Yeah. So, um, I'll be quite honest. I was terrified going into the performance. All of the days leading up to it, they called us up and they said, "Can you be in St. Louis in 3 weeks?"
Wow.
And at this point, of course, the gyms hadn't been open for very long, but I realized I was in the same boat as everybody else. There are some regions that didn't even have their gyms open and they were, just working out at home.
Mm,
So I at least had a gym that had been open for a couple of months before I got that second call.
mm.
But at the same time, those feelings of self-doubt of, I'm not ready yet, just came creeping back in. And I found myself just trying to cram as much as I could in those 3 weeks as I could. And it just, I was so stressed out. And, RJ has such a good mental game. And he was trying to coach me on those things. And he actually recommended a book called With Winning in Mind, which ended up being a really good book. But, I was finishing up the book on the way to St. Louis. So it's a little bit like, too late at that point, because in order to build a good mental game, of course, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice, just like building up your physical skills.
Mm.
So yeah, I tell you what, once I got there, I was just so starstruck with all of the ninja celebrities, and of course the quarantining was pretty stressful because you tell all of these athletes to just sit tight in a hotel room and not leave, for
That didn't
days
happen.
on end. We're just going crazy. And, at that point I'm starting to doubt I'm thinking, it's been 3 days. I haven't been on any obstacles. I've been stuck in a hotel room. I just, started mentally just freaking out and doubting myself. And I just had
Mhm.
no confidence. And then on the platform, I just remember thinking the whole thing looked like a carnival. It
So
looked like a circus. I was just watching cameras zip by on lines and looking at the water and thinking everything looks so shiny and bright. I was so unfocused on the starting line in qualifiers, and I felt it, and I could not bring myself to focus. And that's why I fell on the first obstacle. It's not because I have bad grip on a rope. I've done the shrinking steps dozens of times. I've never failed a first obstacle before, in all my competitions and practices. But it happened then because I lost focus, because I think that I was already focused maybe on the obstacle in front of me, because I was scared and focusing on the water or like everything around me. It was so nerve-wracking. And another thing too is that it is a reality television show, so you've got all these cues. At this point, walk on the platform, look at the camera, look at the screen.
mm.
Then we're going to count down to 3, and then this is going to happen, and you're going to say this, and it was so overwhelming for me, and my focus was shot. So yeah, I ended up falling on the first obstacle. And, of course, that's the worst nightmare of any ninja.
Mm.
And it was a rough couple of days, after that. Ben and RJ really did their best to try to help me increase my confidence. But of course, when you fall on a first obstacle, and honestly, I still can't tell you what happened for sure,
Mm.
why my hand slipped on the rope. It's hard to correct something when you don't really know what happened. And RJ and Ben tried to reassure me, it's not your grip, it's not your physical capability. You have what it takes physically to go through this course. It was just all mental. So for the next couple of days, we worked on things to increase my confidence. And it worked. Semifinals, I got to the third obstacle, which is still a lot earlier than I was planning on going, but still, like, I proved to myself that it was a mental error on that first obstacle the first time around. I got it easily the second time. And yeah, so it was just from after that point, I decided that's it. I need to work on my mental game. As soon as I come home, I'm going to find somebody, find a counselor, find a sports psychologist, find somebody that I can talk to about my mental game and increase that portion. Cause that's the only thing that went wrong, I think, on that entire week. So yeah, honestly, I've been working on my mental game just as much as my physical game, since then. And it's been helping.
That's good. I don't know how much money you've spent on psychology or anything.
Yeah, it is pretty pricey, but I do tell people that so for me, I had 5 different gym memberships. I had 2 climbing memberships, 2 ninja gym memberships, a regular gym membership. I see a physical therapist on a regular basis. I have all these home implements. I have so many things that I spend money on to increase my physical game, and not a single penny or even a single minute of my practice went to my mental game. And if you ask any ninja, you say, what portion of ninja is mental? I bet you most of those people are going to say half, at least half of it is mental. And it's true. And that's just something that we don't ever work on, or at least if we do work on it, nobody ever really wants to talk about it, because I think that it is kind of still a stigma in some ways. But yeah, my partner was telling me, he said, you have what it takes physically. If you could just spend a fraction of that effort working on your mind and working on being more focused and working on eliminating self-doubt and increasing your confidence, like you could be so much better. So, and that's what I tell people who are on the fence. I mean, some people are good at doing it themselves, reading self books. But for me, I was one of those people that needed to talk to somebody about my specific thoughts, like my specific experiences in ninja, face to face. So yeah, that was how it worked for me.
It's very interesting. I think the reason why I wanted you on was, this story that you're telling me, is so common for people who are new to ninja. It's just like, and it's horrible. Like, and the thing about, with TV is sometimes you don't know if that's your one and only chance to make an impression. I've had 2, didn't deliver in that second season. And it's only now that my skill, in my opinion, is far greater and mental, everything is far greater. But have I lost that? Did I lose that opportunity? So it's so important that all these things that you're bringing up need to be passed on to people who want to apply for the show. And I keep telling, and maybe I sound brutal to some people, but I'm telling them, I say, listen, you need to be serious about this. If you actually want to go on the show, it's not enough to just say, oh, I want to have a go and this and that. It's like, no, you got to put in the work. You gotta come in
absolutely
physically strong. You need to, actually train. But mentally, I find mental is the biggest downfall for many new ninjas. They don't know the routine. They don't know all those little things, like you're saying, like leading up to filming, the day of filming, getting up early, all the filming that you might have to do, when you're going to run, how late you're going to run, how is that going to impact. Obviously, I think you guys were indoors, so you probably filmed in the day, which would have been
we did.
Would have been lovely.
Yeah,
but
it was great.
on a normal season, I think Abby was saying that on her first season, while speaking to her on the last episode, her first run was, I think, at 5 a.m, and just not having those little things all prepared, then. It's not that you don't have a chance, but you're really not allowing yourself to have the best experience. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm really glad you've shared all that. So what are some of the things that you've learned from seeing your psych about mental game?
I'm sorry, what was
some of the things that you've learned from your psych? I said psych as a short for psychologist.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me, because, sometimes when you go uh, into a gym and you have a coach, a lot of times the coach will just blankly tell you, you have to believe in yourself. That's a lot easier said than done. If somebody doesn't believe in themselves, why aren't you believing yourselves? What's decreasing your confidence? And so that's one of the things that I would go through with the sports psychologist. I would go through like why I have self-doubts and how these self-doubts are affecting my confidence,
Mm.
and I would learn about the expectations that I have for myself, and how the expectations that I had were very irrational. And I've had these expectations, I said I grew up a perfectionist. I've had these expectations since I was a kid, that I always need to get straight A's, that, when I was running track, that I always have to PR every single time. I always have to place, and I always have to get points for my team. And
Mm.
if I didn't, I was just letting everybody down. I thought that everybody had these high expectations for me,
Mm.
and therefore I had all of these unrealistic expectations for myself. So that was a big one, was learning how to let go of the expectations, because the more brain power that you can put towards, you know, thinking about your physical cues like, which foot is going to step where, spotting your landing platform, spotting your target when you're catching, that's where you need to be putting your brain power,
Mm.
not on your expectations, not
Mm.
on things like, well, I should be able to make it to this first obstacle, or everybody's expecting me to make it across here. It's
Mm.
just put all of those expectations behind you, because you need to put your brain power on focusing on what's in front of you.
Mm.
So that was a big thing as well. And then also, I have a history of having like really bad, like self-doubt, and just not a really good image of myself. So a lot of times, when I would get good at a certain activity, I would totally tie that to my self-worth. And whenever I did poorly in a competition, I would just think that I was a terrible person in general, because what I was as an athlete was so tied to what I just thought of myself as a person. And you need to realize that, ninja, as you know, is a very social sport. Like, I've made so many friends through ninja, and they're not going to think any less of you as a person. You are more than just an athlete
Mm.
on competition day. You have so much more worth than that. And you need to realize that even if things don't go your way, that doesn't define you,
Mm.
and you should learn from it. Because if you let it define you, then you get super discouraged, you start beating yourself up over it, and that's not a sustainable way of thinking. That's getting you closer to quitting a sport.
Mm.
So in order to have a more sustainable way of thinking, that'll get you through years of a sport, you need to look at yourself in a more constructive manner, not consistently beating yourself up. So that's another thing that I really learned from her. I learned how, because every time I would go into a competition, even if I would do well and get a podium placement, sometimes I was like, but I was just too slow, or I messed up on that one obstacle. It was just, I wouldn't remember the good things that happened. I would
Mm.
only remember the poor things that happened. And the more you think about your failures, the more that they're going to happen in the future, or the better chance you give them of happening in the future. You need
Mm.
to build up your confidence resume and keep thinking about the times that you did really well.
Mm.
And chances are the times that you do really well and the times that you have successes far outweigh the times that you did poorly. You need to like refocus, and it's been so great for me to just learn how to reset my mind, um, and come away from every practice and competition with goals, like realistic goals, and, with lessons instead of just criticisms.
Mm.
And that in itself has increased my physical game. So I'll give you an example. Like sometimes I would go into practice and maybe RJ had set up a really hard course, and I would automatically say, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So I
Mm.
wouldn't even take my turn. I would just sit in the corner and I would watch everybody else do it. And I would just be so shy and afraid of falling in front of people, convinced that I couldn't do it. Well, I'm
Mm.
not learning anything,
Mm.
that's causing my physical game to go down because I'm not even trying at that point. But
Mm.
as soon as I learned how to refocus my mind, no matter how I do, I'm always just going to learn from my failures. It doesn't matter if I fall 10 times. There's something to learn there. As soon as
Mm.
I refocused my mind on that, and I asserted myself, got on those obstacles, I was aggressive about it, took my turn, I felt so much more joy out of practice. Like I was just more fun. I felt involved with the practice. I felt like part of the team.
Mm.
And on top of that, my physical game was going up because I was actually getting on obstacles. So
Mm.
it's just refocusing your mind on being less critical has just been a game changer for me. I've in the
Very good.
past, ever since I've gotten back from the show, I've seen my physical game go up because of those mental changes.
You're experiencing what I experienced during the NNL last year, and was it last year? Yeah, I think it was last year, 2000. Yeah, yeah, in Hartford. It's so nice to hear. It's not so nice to
Yeah,
hear that you're going through that. I realized, because I don't know if you were there. I can't remember. There's so many people in Connecticut. The course
I was
was,
not there last year. No, I didn't. I wasn't able to make it. I did qualify, but I didn't make it.
yeah, it was, I want to say a disaster, but
Yeah.
it wasn't far off that.
Oh,
And
yeah, I did hear. I did hear about it.
yeah, and I think when we saw the course beforehand, video came out. I I think I was going into the NNL not really caring about the outcome because I didn't think I was going to do that well. I mean, oh, I'm in America, man.
Mm,
I'm with all the big times. Like, I'm just here
mm.
for I'm here for the fun and just to, oh wow, Daniel Gill's walking by, and oh wow, that's, oh, yeah, just to enjoy it. And yeah, like the first obstacle, wiped out 50% of
Yeah.
50% of the pro league,
Yep.
pro division. And but I went into it like, okay, I saw the video, I saw exactly how they're meant to move. This is how I'll do that. This is how I'll do the. So I went, and I don't think it took me 3 years to sort of realize, oh, you should probably go in with a game plan. You should probably go in knowing the obstacles and having uh, and I can't believe it took me that long to sort of fathom that. And then, I got to the third obstacle, so I was pretty happy about that. I mean, the third obstacle was the hardest to clear. I think only
Yeah.
7 people, maybe like 10 people actually caught the chucks. But then I took away from that. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not that bad. Oh, maybe I can actually be better. And then it
Yeah.
was just from there. It was, for me, the rest of history was like, oh, well, I totally need to like rethink how I approach everything. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had that same aha moment, and
Yeah.
it's such a nice feeling, and it's hard to teach people.
Yeah.
I don't know how to teach.
It is. Yeah. And everything, different people have different strengths and weaknesses, even when it comes to their mental game. Like some people may not be perfectionists, but they just have trouble focusing
Yeah.
in front of an obstacle, um, for for me, I think it was really more of the self-doubt, killing my confidence. That was one of my big ones. But yeah, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So that's why I also found it important for me to talk to somebody one-on-one, because, a book is going to tell people it's just going to be a blanket, one size fits all, and that's why I wanted to see somebody in particular to talk about my specific needs. But yeah, what you were talking about, a game plan, that is so important. And I tell you what, I didn't really have a game plan going into the show either. But ever since then, every competition that I've been at, I do have an exact plan. From the moment I walk through the door to the moment I get up on the platform, I have a checklist. I actually have a physical checklist that I go through on my way over to the competition. And yeah, it really helps. It really helps your confidence to have that checklist and go through it and make sure you're ready. Yeah, no.
Absolutely. So when one thing I wanted to ask before you started talking about when you're on the platform was when you're being shown the obstacles, because when I spoke to Naj, he said, he'd never seen so many new obstacles in one season.
Yeah.
And not that it necessarily threw him off, but they said, "Oh, this is awesome," but like they must have been surprised by some of the complexities of some of these obstacles. So if you remember, when you were going through the obstacle demonstration, what were you, how are you, how are you processing what you were seeing? If you can take me through that experience.
Yeah. So the show isn't as good of an example of what I go through now because back, when I was doing the show, I didn't have as much of a game plan and I wasn't as confident. But yeah, so what I did learn after the show, because I did talk to my sports psychologist about my experiences on the show, and what I determined is that even if you see a new obstacle, brand new obstacle that you've never done before, at this level of our skills, we have come across we've come across all the basic skills, and any new obstacle is just, building on those basic skills. It's a high lache. It's, a lock off. It's, you have everything that you need in your toolbox already to get through a new obstacle. It's not like physics are going to change or anything and gravity is going to be different. You have everything that you need. It's a new obstacle just builds on skills that you already have. And that's what you need to take away from it. And I think most of us have had these surprising moments where we see a new obstacle and, we get it on the first try. We're like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't as bad as I thought, and the same thing could happen at any time, even in the show, when you're up against a new obstacle. You just have to be confident in the skills that you do have and use what's in your toolbox. Just look at it as, I'm going to use this tool, and that's all this is. Get past it. Yeah. So that's how I approach it now. Definitely not what I did on the show, but that's how I approach it now. My new method.
I'm glad. So, how have you been doing in competitions? What's been your results since coming back from the show?
Yeah, I think, well, as far as like my physical results, I have done 3 NNL qualifiers so far, and I've podiumed on each of them. But I tell you what, the elite female division is kind of lonely. So all you elite females out there, you need to or all you females, I should say, out there in NNL world, you need to join elite because it's super lonely. But I tell you what, it is like, it's a stacked competition every single time, because all of us elite females, we are on the same level. And really what it comes down to, like, physically, we're all capable of getting through these obstacles, but what it comes down to is like, who's more mentally prepared, maybe, and that's again, why I think that mental preparation is important, because it's really anybody's game to win any of these, competitions. But yeah, I've made podium each of the 3 times that I've competed this season. So that's a huge win for me. I mean, I haven't been this consistent. So yeah, it's been good, but mentally is really, is really where the change has happened, because I come away from I used to come away from every competition, just like in tears, frustrated, wanting to quit. But now I come away from every competition and I had a great time, and it's not just because I podium, a
Mm,
podium, that's fine.
mm,
It's like icing on the cake at that point. But like I come away from it, proud of how I did,
mm.
and come away from it with lessons for the future. Even if I failed on an obstacle that I think, I might have done during practice, I'm like, okay, well, what went wrong here? And, let's be constructive about this, and let's walk away with a game plan for next practice. And that's just been the most rewarding for me,
Mm.
to go from completely frustrated and wanting to quit every single time to having fun and goal setting for the future.
That's awesome. I'm
So
so glad you said everything you've said is, I think, so important for, new ninjas to hear. So I'm really glad. I'm really
yeah.
glad you're saying it. Um, so explain to me with the NNL and the different divisions. And so I know there's a rec league, but that's completely separate from the normal
Yes.
ninja league. So when you say in the elites, is there multiple divisions in that? Oh, because there's like a
Yeah.
masters and there's a
Yeah. They
how does that work?
actually, they actually just added the elite division this year.
Okay.
So the difference between the regular division and the elite division is that in the regular division, the top 3 podium finishers go on to regionals or go on to finals or what have you.
Yeah.
In the elite, it's a little bit more competitive. Only the top 2 podium finishers go on to regionals um, or to finals. And also the course is different, at least in the 3 competitions that I've been to so far. The course is different. The elite course is obviously a little bit harder, and in the elite course, they will stop you as soon as you fall, just as, the show.
Mm.
But in the regular division, they'll actually let you go on and try the
Okay.
entire course. So and I mean, I have to believe that that's feedback from the public. Like a lot of people might have been scared about trying NNL because, if they're beginners, they don't
One
want
and
to go
done.
out on the first
Yeah.
or second obstacle and stop, and they just paid $65 for what. So so I think that they separated the elite because of that feedback. That's what I believe anyway. But it's
That's
been
fair
it's
enough.
been good. It's been good. I think I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, at least from some of the beginner ninjas that have gone into the regular division. It's a lot more enjoyable for them.
Okay. And what do you think it's going to take to see more of these women, more women crossing over into the elite league? Is there any barriers, do you think, or what do you think's what do you think it's going to take,
Um,
in your opinion?
I think interestingly enough, and this is just what I've seen. I think that there are a lot more self-confidence issues in women ninjas than in male ninjas. And it's, I hate to see it. It's sad to see, but obviously it happened to me as well. But a lot of times I see the male ninjas and they just seem so confident, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go after it." And I don't know what it is about the female ninja mentality, but yeah, a lot of times I've been to competitions, and after the walkthrough, the women and the girls will stand around and just talk about which obstacle they're going to fail at. It's just there's I think that there's just I think that the confidence level isn't very high among some of the female athletes. So I really do think it's a mental barrier. And I'm hoping that by getting my message out, this is why I wrote about it on Instagram, and this is why you reached out to me. I'm hoping that getting it out there in public and letting the girls and women know that, you can fix it. You can fix it and find the sport enjoyable again.
Mm,
You can be confident on the course. I'm hoping that it'll change people's minds.
mm,
But yeah, I think I know that at least in my gym, there are a lot of first time competitors. This is their first year competed in the sport. So I understand it on that level. If it's your first time, sure,
Mm.
but once you get to a certain level, it's almost like you should be joining the elite, because otherwise you're kind of throwing the game if you stick around in the regular one, So, but again, it's up to those women to decide for themselves, and to be confident enough to go for the elite.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the pros and cons, you have to place top two in order to progress. But yeah, it really is just a confidence issue.
No, it's all very interesting. I've been I've been really focusing at least the last episodes on women, because I'm trying to get an understanding of what's going on. When I spoke to Karen Saber, who's in Chicago, she's like, oh, the females are coming up, which I agree is in America, 100%. But just it is interesting getting I guess the feedback, because I really would like to see more women doing well. And we do have some very strong in Australia. We have some very strong women.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like absolutely, we do. But I would like to see them all hitting buzzers. And unfortunately, we had a year, I think it's season 2, where we had 6 women hit buzzers in qualifiers, and then Olivia was the only one from that season on, and for at least the next 2 seasons to actually go on and can hit buzzers at a higher, further on in the competition. And I think the
Yeah.
last 2 years, Olivia's been the only one to hit, or maybe another woman did. But I think definitely last season, Olivia was the only one to hit a buzzer in qualifier. Well, she's the only one to hit she's the only female to hit a buzzer in qualifiers, and then obviously after that, I think she made it to stage 2. So
Yeah.
that was a new, level that she reached,
Setting the bar.
setting
Yeah,
the bar
absolutely.
super high. And I just want to know, what is it going to take? We've got to get more women closer to her, to that gap. We have to close that gap, and there's something missing that I can't put my finger on as to why that gap isn't being closed.
Yeah, well, I'd actually be interested in knowing how she handles her mental game too, because I know she's a gymnast, and I know that speaking from other gymnasts, like it's a tough sport. Like the coaches are very hard on you, and sometimes that really does take a toll on your psyche. But at the same time, people who are perfectionists like that, it drives them. It drives them to do better. But I think that there is a good balance between being a perfectionist, but you also have to be realistic about your goals as well.
mm,
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know how she handles her mental game, because for somebody at her level to hit as many buzzers, people like Olivia, people like Jessie Lebrecht, they've got to have a good mental game. There's no way that they can do it without a
oh,
strong mental game.
absolutely. Sorry, I just got to close
Um,
my window. There's someone
oh,
making noise.
yeah, no problem.
I don't know if that'll help. Sorry, listeners, if you heard that. Um, well, I mean, I have an episode with Olivia I did sometime last year. So if you scroll back on my podcast, there's an episode. There's definitely an episode there. But I mean, when we discussed, we talked about her journey to the Olympics and everything she went through. And yeah, I think she did definitely felt that, from my memory. Gymnastics. It did take a toll on her mentally, and she lost the love for it,
Mm,
and I think Ninja gave her that sense of fun again.
yeah.
Um, and I think for her, with her experience of going to the Olympics, of being at that elite level, and probably all the media work she has done, even just from that period, that all helped her with being able to manage the glitz and the glam of Ninja, because she's been to that high
Mm-hmm.
level. She actually knows what that's like. And that helps her to not get too flustered. I mean, if Livia, if you're listening to this, please message me and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think also it's that yeah, it's not a stubbornness, but it's that, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to. It's a good stubbornness. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for? resilience, I guess.
Yes. Okay.
Uh, that's no, I'm going to do what I set out to do, and that there's nothing wrong with setting the bar that high. And that's something I've learned
Mm-hmm.
from her and Ben, her partner, obviously, who won Ninja last season. I think it's okay to set the bar high, because you got to risk it for the biscuit, as we say.
Yeah.
So and that's something that, I mean, I struggled with. It's the acceptance that, no, I want to get to the end, I want to hit a buzzer, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, and I don't have to put pressure on myself. Like, it's okay just to focus on being, yep, I can do this, and just and trying to execute, rather than going, but what if I don't do it? Oh, but then what if, and then you start thinking about all the things that, the self-doubt. So I think it's this total acceptance that, no, we're at this level, and we can do it. And when I did an episode during the Australian season, because I was getting all the competitors together, and I think it was heat 4 for us, or what do you guys call them? We call them heats. You call them qualifiers. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I gathered it was a very stacked qualifier or heat for us. Like, a lot of basically the best of the best were together. I brought like 7 of them together, and they were all at that same level mentally, where it's like, no, look, we can do this. As you said before, yeah, no, we got this.
Yeah.
Not a problem. And when they're looking at obstacles, they're looking at, okay, well, when the tester did it, okay, he took off on this foot, like you said. Okay, when he grabbed that, they looked at that. Okay, when he grabbed it, there was a bounce. There was this. There was, like, all they're doing is just taking in what the tester's doing, internalizing it, and then working out how they're going to cheat it, or if there's a beta they can find. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference. It's that acceptance of, no, I'm at this level. Whether they if they fail, they're not even focusing on if they fail. It's okay. I'm at this level. What do I have to do? What's the game plan? Okay, that's it. And that's it. That's all they focus on. It's like you said, shifting
Yeah.
the mental, the brain power to literally just the game plan. And I think, coming back to Olivia, I think that's her greatest strength. Is it's, nope, I've got a game plan. I'm going to stick with it. And I'm sure she goes through doubts. I'm sure that still happens. It happens to all of us. It happens to Ben. It happens to all of us. But I think, yeah, that's her greatest strength. And I really wish, I would like to see more women being able to adopt that, like you have, that mindset, because it
Yeah,
really is,
absolutely.
it is the difference. And that's what actually increases your physical ability, is the acceptance of yourself, and through acceptance you gain confidence, and through confidence you
You're more
then
aggressive.
explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you get better. So it's once you're on the other side, you go, oh, it's so simple, like you can see it. But when you're on the other side, like, it's amazing that you can't see it. And yeah, I don't know how to. A question I've got for you is, if you were now coaching yourself when you first started, how would you coach yourself with what you know
So
now?
I wouldn't do the whole blanket, you got to believe in yourself, because I get it. A lot of coaches, they're coaching multiple people at the same time, and they don't have a lot of time. So it's, all they can afford at that moment is, you just got to believe you can do it.
Hmm.
This is like the stuff you did before, got to believe in yourself. But I would ask myself, okay, what exactly is holding me back? What are my confidence killers? What are the things that I can control, and what are the things that I can't control? Because sometimes a lot of my sources of confidence were things that were completely out of my control. It's like, who's showing up for practice today? Oh, all of the people at practice are better than me. Now my confidence goes down. But if I'm the one at practice that's better, quote unquote, my
Hmm.
confidence goes up. Well, you can't control who's going to be at practice and who's not. You can't control what obstacles the coach is going to put up. If they're easier obstacles, your confidence goes up. Well, that's not something you can control. So learning to like see sources of confidence from within, looking back on all of the things that I've been successful at, the podiums that I've stood on, the hard obstacles that I've gone past, all the times that I've gotten praise for, a really cool save, or just doing well in practice. Those are the things that I would tell myself to remember. And I would also tell myself to be aggressive. Don't be mousy about it. Don't just sit there in the corner and think that you can't do something and not even try. I think that was one of my biggest hurdles was, and even when I would try, I would just kind of like half-ass it, excuse my English, because I would think that I couldn't do it. So I was already mentally checked out. I wouldn't give it my best shot. Just be aggressive, like look inside yourself for those sources of confidence. Write down all of the things that you've had success on in the past and read those things. Like I call that my confidence list, my confidence resume, if you will. I add to my resume. I look back at all those times and I think, okay, well, I can do this obstacle. I've done obstacles first try, second try before. This is no different, during practice, just got to be aggressive. Just got to go for it. Put yourself out there. You'll have more fun if you just go out there and try, even if you fall, you're getting out there, you're getting involved with the community, with your other classmates. It's more fun that way. And you'll learn something and you'll get better because of it. So that's really what I would tell myself.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're coaching some of these girls that are doing the normal division, how are you going to convince them to come to the elite?
Well, right now it's too late, because once you go into the regular division, you actually cannot, well, even, and vice versa, you have to stay in the division that you did at your first competition. So it's too late now. But next year, I tell you what, I'm going to tell that, look at everything that you did well in the past competition. Obviously, it's going to be up to them, but, I'm going to be like, look at your confidence resume. Look at all these things you did well. Look at how well you did this past year. You made it to Worlds, you made it to here. It might be time. Just give it a thought. It might be time. You've worked hard, you've practiced hard, you've trained hard. It just, I really do think that it's a mental aspect that is holding a lot of them back. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And what is your goal? 'Cause you've qualified for the finals. Yeah.
So there's the qualifiers, then there's regionals, and then there's your finals. So we've only been through qualifier level. So I don't even know of any regional competitions that are set right now. And I know that NNL has extended the season. They just made the decision to extend the season because there are so many regions right now that don't even have competitions going on because of COVID restrictions. So yeah, I don't know what this season is going to look like as far as competition schedules, but whenever there's a regional, I will be there because I have qualified. So we'll see if I make it to finals.
Have you set a benchmark that you're trying to reach, or is it just open?
I mean, obviously, like it's so part of the mental training is good goal setting, and yes, it's okay to have your goals. And of course, one of my goals is to make it to finals, wherever that is. And if I have to go to multiple regionals, I don't know if they will have multiple regionals per region, but if I have to do multiple regionals to get there, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, my ultimate goal is to make it to NNL finals. Yes. And to make it on the show next year. I hope they accept me back.
Oh, I'm sure they will. You do have a unique story. Obviously, I forgot to talk about the bunnies, but that's okay.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I mean, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed this episode. I think there's a lot of value. I like that one, the confidence checklist. I like that. I'm gonna be telling that to some people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad that I could get a chance to talk about this because, as I said, I think it really is a big issue in the ninja community, and especially from what I've seen, female ninjas. So
Well,
I'm hoping that these can change some minds.
we can only hope. I think everyone will go through their individual journey, and they'll either learn this or they won't, unfortunately. And it's, you can't force it on people. They have to go through it themselves. But if you can, sort of show the path, then I guess it's up to them to walk it. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for this. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch, and I'm sure you'll get on the show next. I'm
Oh,
expecting a
I
buzzer.
hope so. I really hope so. I want redemption on that course.
Hopefully they don't come up with some. I mean, they're coming up with some crazy stuff. I mean, just some of the. I think the craziest thing I saw was I think it was called the Grim Reaper. It was the balance obstacle, whatever the one it was, where it looked like the Grim Reaper's sword, but it had like a pad.
Oh
So if you
yeah.
stepped on it, it would. Oh man,
It would swing in the opposite direction. Yeah.
that's not short. That's not short people friendly. It really isn't.
Oh man.
Oh man, but yeah, maybe, who knows? I might see you there next year. I don't know what's gonna happen
Yeah, hopefully.
with everything. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and yeah, we'll be in touch.
Yes, thank you so much, Kadeem.
All right, take care, Jess. See ya.
Bye-bye.